She didn't scream during labor, didn't cry when the baby came, didn't ask to hold her newborn daughter. She only stared, then quietly whispered, "I can't." No one in the delivery room understood. The nurse offered her the bundled child, but Camille Sullivan recoiled like it burned her. The baby's skin was dark, deep brown, unmistakably not white like Camille or her husband Trent. And just like that, she turned her face away. The silence was suffocating. 2 days later, the child left the hospital in a stranger's arms. Camille signed the papers. No names, no goodbye. "It's better this way," Trent said, jaw clenched, voice cold. "We start over. No one needs to know." They never spoke of it again. For 17 years, Camille buried the truth. Until one day, standing at the checkout counter of a pharmacy in Chicago, she saw a face on the cover of Time magazine that made her heart stop. A teenage girl with honeyed brown skin and stormy eyes. The headline read, "The Genius Who Redefined Justice Photography." Camille dropped the magazine. Her legs buckled. Because that face was hers, her daughter's. It had started on a Tuesday. A cold, gray Tuesday during a winter so bitter it felt like life had frozen mid-breath. Trent had been gone for weeks. His law firm had assigned him to a corporate fraud case in D.C., and his calls had become fewer, colder. Camille, 34, mother of 2, house-proud and prim, was unraveling quietly. Alone with 2 kids, PTA pressure, and a silent house echoing with what-ifs. Enter Marcus. He was the school district's community liaison, tall, warm, and funny in a way that didn't try too hard. He remembered her coffee order. He listened when no one else did. He asked how she was, not what she had done that day. Camille never meant for anything to happen, but grief is its own seduction. Loneliness wears down the strongest walls. One night, after a fundraiser at the elementary school, after one too many glasses of wine in the staff lounge, it happened. And she hated herself for it, more than she'd ever hated anyone, more than she could explain. She ended it the next day, cut off all contact, and thought that would be the end. Until the pregnancy test turned positive. Trent was home by then. The case had closed. He brought flowers. He was trying. And Camille wanted to believe things could be okay again. She told herself the baby would come early, that maybe Trent wouldn't notice. She prayed the child would inherit her pale skin, her father's hazel eyes. She hoped. Oh, how she hoped. But babies tell the truth, and this one did. Loudly, clearly, unmistakably. Trent's face twisted the moment he saw the child. His mouth opened, but the words took longer. "What the hell is this?" he finally choked out. "She's not Camille. She's not mine." She tried to speak, tried to explain. "Don't," he held up his hand. "Don't insult me with stories." "I didn't plan this," she whispered. "I didn't mean to—" "Oh, you didn't mean to?" His voice cracked, part fury, part heartbreak. "You had a whole black man in my house, around my children, while I was busting my back to keep us afloat." He turned toward the window, fists clenched. Then came the dagger. "I can't raise this child, not like this, not in our neighborhood, not with how this'll look." Camille froze. The cold truth unwrapped itself slowly. Trent wasn't just hurt. He was ashamed. Not of her affair, of the child. The social worker came that afternoon. Neutral voice, kind smile. Legal options laid out like menu items. "Open adoption is possible. Closed, if that's more comfortable. You don't need to decide today, Mrs. Sullivan. Take your time." But time was the one thing Camille didn't have. Trent was clear. It's me or the baby. The ultimatum cut her in half. What about Grace and Noah? Their daughter was 9, their son barely 6. What would she tell them? That their baby sister didn't fit in? That their mom had made a mistake that had a face? And the baby, this tiny, warm, breathing piece of truth wrapped in a pink hospital blanket. She hadn't cried much, just stared up at Camille with wide storm gray eyes. Marcus's eyes. Camille felt something then. Not love, not yet, but weight. The kind that tells you, this matters. She sat in silence that night. The nursery Trent had painted weeks before lay untouched. No baby came home. No lullaby was sung. Just a signed form, just legal ink, just guilt. "It's for the best," Trent said as he shut the trunk, the empty car seat inside. No one ever needs to know. But Camille knew. Every second, every breath, every glance in the mirror. And worst of all, she agreed. She hadn't just lost a child. She had given her away. Camille didn't cry the next day. She got up, made scrambled eggs for Grace and Noah, packed lunchboxes with sliced apples and sticky notes that said, "You've got this." She smiled at the school bus driver, waved at the neighbor, folded laundry in perfect rectangles. And inside? Nothing. Not sadness, not peace, just silence. Like a scream that had folded itself into her lungs and refused to come out. Trent never brought it up again. He didn't need to. Their lives picked up in quiet, deliberate rhythms. Family dinners, church on Sundays, PTA meetings and soccer practices. The nursery was repainted a soft gray. Camille donated the crib. They told everyone she'd miscarried late in pregnancy. People offered condolences. They brought casseroles. Some cried for her. If only they knew. At night, she'd stare at the ceiling and wonder if the baby was safe. If someone had held her. If she cried for a mother who never looked her in the eye. Camille didn't know the baby's name. She hadn't asked. Did the adoptive parents name her something soft? Something powerful? Or did they keep the placeholder name the hospital had printed on her ID band? Baby girl Sullivan. God, the weight of that. A child unloved by name. Years blurred like fog. One memory bleeding into the next. Camille made casseroles, drove carpools, decorated Christmas trees, smiled in family portraits, said the right things at dinner parties. Everyone thought she was the perfect wife, the perfect mom, the perfect homemaker. They had no idea there was a grave inside her. And the tombstone read, "I chose silence over truth." Sometimes she'd catch herself staring too long at biracial children in the grocery store. She'd imagine timelines, try to calculate ages. Was that her? Could that be? No, stop it. She tried not to imagine what Marcus would have said if he'd known. He'd left town a month after she ended things. Never called. Never knew he had a daughter. At least, that's what she told herself. One night, as Grace and Noah slept soundly in their rooms and Trent snored beside her, Camille slipped into the attic. She opened the box marked April. Inside, a pink hospital wristband, a copy of the adoption release, and a photograph the nurse had taken against Camille's will. It was blurry. The baby had been turning her head, but even in that blurred moment, there were those storm gray eyes. Eyes that saw everything, eyes that never stopped looking back. 17 years passed. Camille had almost convinced herself it had never happened. Almost. Until one ordinary Thursday afternoon, while picking up cold medicine from the pharmacy, the past punched her in the chest. She was in the checkout line, scrolling through her phone, when something made her glance up. A magazine rack, middle shelf, Time magazine, and on the cover, a girl, tall, elegant, hair like a crown of coiled stars, eyes that cut through the lens like they could see you, name you, strip you bare. Camille froze. The girl's name was printed in bold under the headline, Jordan Wells, the 17-year-old genius exposing systemic injustice through photography. But Camille couldn't read, couldn't breathe, because those weren't just anyone's eyes. They were hers. Not Camille's, not Trent's, Marcus's, storm gray, piercing. The same eyes that had stared at her from a hospital bassinet. The same ones that had haunted her sleep. The magazine slipped from Camille's hands and hit the floor with a soft thud. The cashier called out, "Ma'am, are you okay?" But Camille didn't hear. Her knees buckled. The world tilted sideways. She collapsed. When she came to, she was surrounded by strangers. A medic, a pharmacy clerk, a man holding her purse. Her heartbeat sounded like thunder in her ears. She asked the only question that mattered. "Where's the magazine?" The clerk handed it to her silently. She clutched it like scripture. There it was again. That face, that jawline, that gaze. The caption beneath the cover image read, From foster care to front lines, how Jordan Wells is redefining belonging. Foster care. Foster care. Not adoption, not family. Camille's stomach churned. You were supposed to go straight to a home, a good one. That's what they promised. Her hands trembled. The girl on the cover was not a secret anymore. She was a symbol, a voice, a storm. And Camille realized, I didn't bury the past. I raised it. And now it has a name, a platform, and a face the whole world can see. Camille didn't sleep that night. She lay in the guest bedroom, the one Trent never asked about, with the Time magazine on her chest like a heartbeat she couldn't shut off. The article was only 4 pages, but she read it 37 times. Jordan Wells, born in Portland, Oregon, placed in foster care at birth, adopted at 3, now 17. Award-winning photographer, featured in Time, The Atlantic, and The Guardian. Camille's eyes caught one line and wouldn't let go. Jordan's early years in foster care deeply inform her work, which focuses on overlooked children, fractured families, and the search for identity. Foster care. 3 years. They told Camille she'd be adopted right away. They promised. By 3 a.m. Camille had found Jordan's website. Her bio was brief, impersonal, but the images, God, they were electric. Children behind chain-link fences, siblings separated in courtrooms, a little girl staring out a bus window like she'd aged 30 years in one blink. It was art and pain and fury, frozen in time. And Camille saw it. The signature. Small, bottom corner of every print, JW. But it wasn't just initials, it was a wound. She opened Jordan's Instagram next. Over 700K followers. Captions sparse, powerful. One photo, a child's shoes left on a courthouse step, simply said, I was here, they just didn't see me. Camille wept. By sunrise, she knew 3 things. Jordan was having a photography exhibition next Saturday. It was in Seattle, a 3-hour drive from Camille's home in Portland. She was going, not to make contact, not yet, just to see her, to prove to herself that Jordan was okay. To stand in the same room, breathe the same air, and know she survived, despite me. Camille didn't tell Trent. He was away on another case. Good. She wasn't ready to explain the way her hands had started shaking the moment she saw Jordan's face, and hadn't stopped since. She barely ate that week. She'd stare at the photo on the magazine, that defiant gaze, and flinch. Not from anger, from shame. Her daughter had grown into a force, not in spite of being abandoned, because of it. She called the gallery and reserved a ticket under her maiden name. Elizabeth Grant, she told them. She booked a hotel 5 blocks away. One night, no luggage, no plans, just a letter. She would write one, explain everything, or at least try. On Thursday, 2 days before the exhibit, Camille opened a box in the back of the closet she hadn't touched in 17 years. Inside, the hospital release form. The blurry photo of the baby in the bassinet. A folded note from Marcus, written just weeks before the affair ended. A small, pink sock. Camille held the sock like it could still fit over the daughter she never knew. She whispered a name she'd never said out loud. Jordan. The word cracked in her throat like a confession. That night she began the letter. She didn't know how it would end. She only knew where it had to begin. Dear Jordan, my name is Camille Sullivan. She paused. No, too formal, too distant. My name is Camille. I gave birth to you 17 years ago, and I have not known peace since. That was closer. But how do you explain abandonment? How do you tell someone, I gave you up because I was scared, and because you didn't look like me? How do you put that into words that don't rot the paper they're written on? She tried again. By midnight, there were 6 crumpled drafts in the trash. By 2 a.m., she had written a version she didn't hate. She sealed it, put it in her purse. She wouldn't know if she'd give it to Jordan, but she needed it with her, just in case. Trent came home Friday evening, briefcase in hand, tie loosened, the usual. Camille was in the kitchen, wiping the counter even though it was already clean. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door and walked in. "Hey," he said casually, as if everything in the world was exactly as it should be. Camille nodded. "Hey." He poured himself a drink. Something in the way she avoided his eyes made him pause. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm going to Seattle tomorrow," she said, voice low. He froze. "For what?" She turned, slowly. "There's an art exhibition." "Since when do you care about photography?" Camille didn't answer, but Trent's face was already changing. His eyes narrowed, his lips pressed into a line. "What's going on, Camille?" She opened the drawer, pulled out the Time magazine, and slid it across the counter. He stared at the cover, then at her. "No," he said, a whisper. Then louder. "No, no, Camille. Tell me this isn't what I think it is." "She's our daughter," Camille replied.
"I saw her. I knew."
Trent backed away, like the magazine had teeth. "You went looking for her?" "I didn't have to. She found me, on that cover." His voice rose. "And now what? You want to waltz back into her life like nothing happened? Say sorry and hope for a hug?" Camille shook her head, calm but firm. "No, I don't expect forgiveness. But I need to see her. I need to know she's okay. Not from a headline. From her." Trent laughed bitterly. "And you think she wants that? A surprise visit from the woman who gave her up like expired groceries?" Camille flinched, but didn't back down. "She deserves the truth. We never even checked where she ended up." "We made a choice," Trent snapped. "We moved on." "No, you made the choice," Camille fired back. "You gave me an ultimatum. It's her or me. You don't get to play righteous now." His jaw clenched. "You think this fixes anything? You think going to Seattle makes you some kind of martyr?" "No," she said, voice cracking. "But staying silent makes me a coward, and I'm tired of being one." Trent leaned on the counter, head down. "She's probably happy, Camille," he said quietly. "With a real family. People who didn't betray her the second she took her first breath." Camille's eyes shimmered. "I know," she whispered. "I just want to see that for myself." There was a long pause. Trent finally looked at her. "And if she hates you? She has every right to."
"And if she wants nothing to do with you, then I'll leave her be," Camille said.
"But at least I won't live the rest of my life wondering." Trent swallowed hard, then nodded. "Don't tell Grace and Noah. Not yet." "I won't." He left the room without another word, but just before he disappeared up the stairs, he said without turning around, "She has your stubbornness." Camille closed her eyes and whispered, "No, she has my regret." Camille hadn't planned to tell them. Grace and Noah were adults now, 22 and 20. Grace was in her final year at Northwestern Law. Noah was studying architecture in Denver. She told herself it would only make things messy, unfair, but the lie was heavier than her silence. And if Jordan ever came into their lives, they deserved the truth from her, not a headline or a stranger. She invited them both home for Sunday dinner. She made their favorites: rosemary chicken, garlic potatoes, chocolate tart. The air was thick with something unspoken. "Okay, what's going on?" Grace asked, setting down her fork. Camille looked at Noah. He wasn't eating, just watching her carefully. "Mom," he said gently, "did someone die?" Camille shook her head. "No, but something is about to come back to life." They stared at her, and then, like pulling stitches out of her own chest, she spoke. 17 years ago, I gave birth to a baby girl. You were 9, Grace. Noah, you were 7. The words sucked the oxygen from the room. Neither of them blinked. "She wasn't your father's child," Camille continued. "I made a mistake, an affair, one time, and I got pregnant." Grace's jaw clenched. Noah looked down at his hands. "I was going to keep her," Camille whispered. "But your father, he couldn't, and Her voice cracked. "I didn't fight hard enough." "You gave her up?" Grace asked. Flat, cold, disbelieving. Camille nodded. "She was adopted, or I thought she was. I just found out. She went through foster care for 3 years." Noah rubbed his temples. "Jesus." "There's more," Camille said. She reached into the side table drawer and pulled out the Time magazine, set it in front of them. Grace read the cover out loud. Jordan Wells, the 17-year-old genius redefining justice through photography. She stared at the image, then back at Camille. You think this is her? I know it is. Noah leaned closer. She looks like you, and not like Dad. He meant it gently. It still hurt. So what? Grace said, arms crossed. You want to reconnect? Say sorry and hope she hugs you? No, Camille whispered. I just want to know she's okay. I'm going to her exhibition in Seattle. Grace stood. You gave her away because she was black, didn't you? Camille's breath caught. That wasn't the reason, but it was part of the fear. Your father was scared of what people would say, and I didn't have the courage to fight for her, and I live with that every day. That's not fear, Mom, Grace said sharply. That's racism, wrapped in comfort. Noah looked up. Does she know about us? I don't think so. Grace shook her head. This whole family is a damn illusion. Camille stepped forward. You're both adults now. You have every right to be angry, but she's your sister. I know you didn't ask for that truth, but it is the truth. She's a stranger, Grace snapped. Only because I made her one. Grace grabbed her coat. I can't look at you right now. She stormed out. Noah stayed behind. Quiet, processing. She's right, you know, he said. But I don't hate you. Camille looked at him with grateful, stinging eyes. I always wanted a little sister, he added. Maybe someday, if she wants to meet us. Camille nodded, heart breaking open in new ways. I hope so, she whispered. That night, Camille couldn't sleep. Grace hadn't returned her calls. Noah had gone back to Denver. Trent was quiet again, supportive in a way that felt more like guilt than love. Camille sat alone in her office, the house dark, the Time magazine beside her, and a blank piece of stationery in front of her. She picked up the pen, then put it back down, then picked it up again. Dear Jordan, she began, then paused. Too formal. She scratched it out. She tried again. I don't know how to begin. My name is Camille Sullivan. I believe I am your birth mother. I gave birth to a baby girl at Providence Hospital in Portland 17 years ago. I believe that baby was you. The pen shook in her hand. She continued. I've seen your work. I saw your face. I know those eyes. I know you must have questions, and I don't expect you to forgive me. You don't owe me anything, but I want you to know that not a day has passed that I haven't thought of you. Not one. Her eyes burned. I made a choice once. A weak, terrible choice. One that has haunted me every single day. I didn't fight for you. I was afraid of what people would say, of what I would lose, of who I had become. And you paid the price for my cowardice. She stared at the inked page, then wrote, I'm attending your exhibition this Saturday in Seattle. I will not approach you unless you want me to. I'll be there quietly in the background. I'll bring this letter. If you would like to meet me, if you're even curious, I will be there. And if you don't want to see me, if you walk away, I will understand completely. She closed the letter. Whatever happens, I want you to know you are extraordinary, and I am so deeply sorry. Camille. She folded the letter slowly, sealed it, slipped it into her purse, then sat still in the silence. No expectations. Only a single, fragile hope that some part of Jordan's heart might still be open. The gallery was already full when Camille arrived. Voices hummed, wine glasses clinked, flashbulbs sparked. Conversations floated like fog in a room lit with quiet reverence. It was nothing like Camille had imagined. The air inside buzzed with warmth, curiosity, praise. She clutched her small black purse with white knuckles, the letter tucked safely inside, and gave the receptionist her ticket. Elizabeth Grant, she said softly. The woman smiled. Welcome to Wounds and Witnesses. Ms. Wells will be giving remarks in about an hour. Camille nodded but didn't move. Her feet felt glued to the polished floor. Her heart thudded like a drum too large for her chest. Then she saw her, Jordan. Standing in a deep green jumpsuit, radiant under gallery lights, speaking to a group of guests, poised, calm, magnetic. She wasn't a child anymore. She was a woman, a presence, someone the room listened to when she opened her mouth. Camille stood at the edge of the crowd, breath shallow. There was Marcus in her posture, Camille in the jawline, and something entirely Jordan in the way she commanded space. The photographs lining the gallery walls were nothing short of breathtaking, painful, truthful. One showed a child asleep in a foster care office. Another captured a teenage boy gripping a social worker's hand during a courtroom hearing. But one image stopped Camille cold. It was of a hospital wristband lying on a steel table, the name blurred. Captioned simply, unnamed. Camille stepped back as if she'd been slapped. She had done that. She had left the name blank. She wandered through the gallery slowly, not knowing what she was hoping for. A sign, a spark, anything that might bridge the impossible distance between them. Then, it happened. Across the room, Jordan turned. Her gaze swept over the crowd, casually, politely, until it landed on Camille. A flicker of something passed across her face. Confusion, then tension, then realization. Camille felt it like lightning in her chest. Jordan didn't speak. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just stared. And Camille stared back, frozen in place. Two strangers, woven together by blood and brokenness, standing 20 feet apart in a room full of people, and completely alone. Then Jordan blinked, looked away, said something to the group, returned to her role, the professional, the artist, the icon. But she had seen her. Camille knew it in her bones. She left the gallery early, slipping through the doors before the speeches began. Back in her hotel room, she sat on the edge of the bed, the letter still untouched in her purse. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. I recognized you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the cafe across the street from the gallery. If you're brave enough. Camille read the message 3 times, then whispered to no one. Yes. The cafe was small, tucked into the corner of the block just across from the gallery. Sunlight poured through the wide front window, warming the polished wood tables and shelves lined with plants. Camille arrived early. She chose the far corner, quiet, near the back, away from curious eyes. She ordered tea, didn't drink it. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Then the door opened, and Jordan walked in. No entourage, no camera, just herself, casual in jeans and a sweater, her curls pulled back. She scanned the room, saw Camille, and approached without hesitation. Hi, Camille managed to whisper. Jordan sat across from her, no smile, no frown, just calm. I have an hour, she said. I have another shoot at noon. Camille nodded. Thank you for meeting me. Jordan folded her hands. I've been looking for you for almost a year. I had to go through layers of sealed records. My adoptive parents helped. They sound wonderful, Camille said softly. They are, Jordan replied. They never lied to me, never made me feel unwanted, even when I asked about my biological family. Camille lowered her gaze. You have questions? Jordan nodded. Let's start with the basics. Who was he? His name was Marcus Cole, Camille said. He worked in community outreach for the school district. It was one mistake. I ended it, but then I found out I was pregnant. Did he know? Yes, I told him. He wanted to be involved. So, why wasn't he listed on my birth certificate? Camille swallowed hard. Because I was married, and I was terrified. I didn't want anyone to find out. I thought if I hid it, it would disappear. Jordan gave a dry smile. People don't disappear. I know, Camille whispered. You didn't. There was a long pause. Jordan leaned forward slightly. So, what exactly was the reason? She asked. Why didn't you keep me? Camille's throat tightened. I was scared, she said. Scared of losing my marriage, of what people would say. Scared of what it would do to Grace and Noah. Scared of seeing my failure in your face every day. Jordan's voice was low. Scared because I was black. Camille didn't deny it. Yes, she said. It was part of it, the shame, the fear, the racism I didn't want to admit existed in my own home. And you gave me away, Jordan said, voice still steady. Just like that. No, not like that. It broke me. But you still signed the papers. Camille nodded, eyes filling. I've regretted it every day. Jordan looked out the window. Do you know what it's like, she said, to grow up knowing someone chose not to keep you? I imagine. No, don't imagine, she interrupted. Listen, really listen. Camille fell silent. I used to stare at the ceiling and wonder what I did wrong, Jordan continued. Why I didn't deserve a name, a photograph, a trace of someone who wanted me. Camille reached for her purse. I brought something, she said. A letter. I wrote it before the exhibit. I didn't know if I'd give it to you. She slid it across the table. Jordan didn't touch it. I have siblings? She asked. Yes, Camille said. Grace and Noah. They know about you now. Do they want to know me? Camille paused. Noah is curious. Grace is angry, hurt. Jordan nodded, unsurprised. And your husband? Camille hesitated. He's the reason I made the choice, but not the reason I kept it buried. Jordan stood. Camille panicked. Please don't go, I just want a chance to explain. You already did, Jordan said calmly. I heard you, but explanations don't undo abandonment. I know. And just so you understand, Jordan added, this isn't forgiveness. I'm not asking for that, Camille whispered. Just a beginning. Jordan looked down at the letter, then back at Camille. I'll read it. Maybe. She started to leave, then paused. I have more questions, and not just about you. About him, about me. Camille stood slowly. I'll answer anything, anytime. Jordan nodded, then left without another word. Camille sat back down, shaken, breathless, but not broken. Not this time. The next morning, Camille found an email waiting in her inbox. Subject line, one more thing, Jordan. Her heart skipped. She opened it with trembling hands. I've read your letter, still processing, but something came up I want to talk to you about. I'll call this evening. Please answer. Camille replied immediately. Of course, I'll be here. At 8:41 p.m., the phone rang. Camille answered on the first ring. Hello? Jordan's voice was calm, measured. I've been going through my early foster files. I had to request them through a court petition. Most were redacted. Camille listened closely, unsure where this was going. But one document stood out, Jordan continued. It's a note from 6 weeks after I was placed in care. What kind of note? Jordan hesitated. A petition to reclaim me. Camille's body went still. What? It was unsigned, no identifying name, just an attached affidavit that said, birth father is contesting placement, seeks custody. But it was never followed up. Case closed 2 weeks later. I was moved to another family. Camille felt the floor shift beneath her. Marcus? She whispered. Could it have been Marcus? I've been wondering the same thing, Jordan said, but he vanished from public records shortly after I was born. No job records, no social, nothing. I told him, Camille said quietly. He wanted to be involved, but I shut the door. I didn't even tell him where I delivered. So, how did someone file that request? Jordan asked. I don't know, Camille replied honestly. But someone tried. There was a pause. Do you know if anyone else knew? Jordan asked. No, Camille said slowly. Only your father, Trent. Another pause. Camille felt a cold truth rising, one she hadn't dared name. What if it wasn't Marcus? Jordan said. Camille exhaled. Then who? Jordan continued, voice lower now. There's another thing. Last month, after I posted a photo from the hospital I was born in, I got a message. What kind of message? It was anonymous. No profile picture, no name. Just a single line. Ask her about April 18th. Camille's stomach dropped. That's the day you were discharged, she whispered. I know. Camille's hands trembled. Do you still have the message? I saved a screenshot, Jordan said. I'll send it. A pause. "Do you think someone else tried to come for me?" Jordan asked. Camille couldn't speak, because in that moment, she remembered something. Something she had buried so deep, she had convinced herself it didn't matter. A locked drawer in Trent's office, a shredded envelope, a late-night call that ended when she walked in the room. 17 years ago, Jordan said quietly. "Something doesn't add up, and I want the truth." Camille whispered. "So do I." Camille barely slept. After Jordan's call, her mind raced through fragments of the past like broken glass. Too many edges, not enough clarity. Who filed that petition? Why did it disappear? Why had Trent insisted on handling all the paperwork himself? By sunrise, she decided, she'd ask him. Directly. But before she could, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was short. "You opened the door. Now deal with what walks through it." Camille's blood ran cold. She stared at the screen, rereading the words. No name, no profile photo. Just like the one Jordan had received. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Was this a warning? A threat? Or something else entirely? A final attempt to bury the truth? She forwarded the message to Jordan. A minute later, Jordan replied. "Same tone, probably the same sender. This isn't random." Camille turned her phone off. For the first time in years, she was afraid not of the past, but of what it still had the power to do. She stood in front of Trent's office door, hesitated, then opened it. The room was clean, clinical, bookshelves, leather chair, file cabinets. She knelt by the lowest drawer, the one she remembered him locking when she was pregnant. But it wasn't locked anymore. Inside were rows of old folders, legal documents, contracts, and buried beneath a stack of insurance files, a manila envelope. No label. She opened it slowly. Inside, a copy of the birth certificate application. A letter to the hospital, unsigned, requesting immediate sealed adoption. A photocopy of an official petition to contest foster care placement, rejected. A sticky note with a date, April 18th. Camille's breath caught. It had been him. Not Marcus. Trent. She stood up, heart hammering. He hadn't just pressured her into giving Jordan up, he'd sabotaged any attempt to get her back. And now, he was trying to keep it buried, even if it meant scaring them into silence. Camille walked out of the office and down the hallway, the folder clutched in her hand like a burning truth. Whatever forgiveness looked like, it wasn't possible, until this lie came to light. Camille waited until dinner. She didn't want a phone confrontation. This deserved eye contact. This demanded truth. Trent walked in, briefcase slung over his shoulder, loosened tie, the usual rhythm. But nothing about tonight would be usual.
"Can we talk?" Camille asked.
He froze, like something in her voice broke his routine. "Sure," he said carefully. They sat in the den. She laid the manila folder on the coffee table between them. He stared at it, didn't open it, didn't need to. His shoulders sagged.
"You looked,"
he said. "I had to," Camille replied. "She deserves the truth." He rubbed his eyes like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "I didn't want to hurt her," he whispered. "Or you." "Then why try to scare her? Why send that message?" He looked at her, startled. "I didn't send her a message." Camille's breath caught. "What?" "I sent one to you." Silence fell like a dropped curtain. "You threatened me." "I didn't threaten you," he said. "I just wanted you to stop, to leave it alone." "Why?" "Because once it starts unraveling," he said softly, "you can't put it back together. And I didn't want you hating me more than you already do." Camille folded her arms. "Tell me everything, Trent." He exhaled. "When you signed the papers, something felt wrong. Not because she wasn't mine, but because I saw the way you looked at her. You told me to forget her. I did, but I couldn't." His voice cracked. 2 weeks later, I drove back to the hospital. I asked for information. They said the child had been transferred to foster care while waiting on placement. I panicked. I thought we'd agreed she'd go straight to a home. Camille blinked. "You filed the petition?" He nodded. "I wrote it. Asked for her to be placed with friends of mine, out of state. I didn't want her back with us. I just didn't want her lost in the system. I thought I could control where she went. But the petition was denied. They said since I wasn't the biological father, and you hadn't named me as a legal guardian, I had no standing. I could have pushed it, but then, he trailed off. Then what? I got scared. Of what people would think, of what it would mean for our kids, our jobs, our image. Camille stared at him. You left her there. Trent nodded. I buried it, like you did, but when I saw her face on that magazine, he looked away. I saw what she became, without us. Camille's voice shook. You tried to fix it in the worst way, by hiding it all again. I didn't know what else to do. She pointed at the envelope. You kept all the paperwork. You remembered April 18th. You never forgot. No, he admitted. I never did. They sat in silence for a long time. Camille's voice softened. She reached out to me. She's not asking for anything, but she deserves to know what happened. She's angry, isn't she? Trent asked. She's honest, Camille replied. And she's strong. She doesn't need us. No, Camille agreed. But that doesn't mean she doesn't deserve the option. Trent stared at the fireplace, eyes unfocused. Do you want me to come with you? He asked. Camille considered it, then shook her head. Not yet. Trent nodded. Okay. Camille picked up the envelope and walked to the stairs. Before she disappeared, she turned back. Trent? He looked up. I don't hate you, she said. I hate what we let fear do to us. He nodded slowly. And I hate that she had to pay the price. Upstairs, Camille sat on the edge of her bed and opened her phone. She typed, I know who sent the message. It was Trent. He tried to get you out of foster care years ago, but didn't follow through. He didn't want you back. He just didn't want to lose control. He lied to me too. A moment later, Jordan replied, That explains the sealed affidavit. Why the court rejected it. Why the name was missing. Are you okay? Camille stared at that question. She hadn't been asked that in a long time. Not like that. Not by her. She typed, I will be. One day. If you'll let me keep telling you the truth. The response came quick. I'll think about it. And somehow, that was enough. Jordan didn't respond for 3 days. No texts, no emails, not even a seen checkmark on Camille's messages. Camille tried to give her space. She didn't want to chase, didn't want to suffocate what little thread of connection they'd built. But the silence was excruciating. On the 4th morning, her phone buzzed. Message from Jordan. I'm coming by, 15 minutes. Camille nearly dropped the phone. She ran to clean the living room but stopped herself. This wasn't about presentation. This was about pain. Jordan arrived alone. No coat, no bag. Just her and a quiet storm behind her eyes. Camille opened the door gently. Come in. Jordan didn't sit. I just came to say something, she said. Her voice wasn't angry, but it wasn't warm either. I've been thinking, she continued, about what I want, what I don't want. Camille stood still. I'm not ready to build anything with you, Jordan said plainly. Not now, maybe not ever. Camille nodded, throat tight. I understand. I don't need more apologies, Jordan added. And I definitely don't need pity. You won't get it, Camille whispered. What I need is time and honesty. If you contact me, it has to be because you're ready to give me the full story. All of it. No edits. I am, Camille said. I will. Jordan looked away, blinking fast. You had 17 years to figure this out. I've had a week, so don't expect me to have room for you yet. I don't expect anything. There was a pause. Jordan finally looked her in the eyes. I don't hate you, she said, but I don't trust you. And with that, she turned and left. Camille stood in the doorway for a long time. The air inside the house felt heavier than it had in years. No dramatic shouting, no dramatic hugging, just reality, just damage. She closed the door slowly and walked to the window, watching Jordan disappear down the street. She was strong. She was steady, and she was walking away, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because healing too has boundaries, And Camille understood now. This wasn't a story with a clean ending. It was a slow, uneven rebuild. One where showing up didn't mean being accepted. At least not yet. 3 months passed. Spring arrived in Portland with soft rains and cautious color. Camille walked the neighborhood most mornings, umbrella in hand, stepping carefully around puddles like she could avoid memory by avoiding water. But it always followed. Some mornings, she would stop outside the school Jordan might have attended if things had been different. Other times, she wandered through bookstores, wondering if Jordan liked fiction or poetry.
She never asked.
She hadn't reached out again. She was honoring Jordan's space, but she thought of her daily. Grace still hadn't come home. Her texts were clipped, civil, but something in her voice, when they rarely spoke, had shifted.
Camille knew why. Yeah.
She had shattered the illusion her daughter was raised under, not by lying, but by withholding. Noah, on the other hand, had grown quieter, but more present. He called every Sunday. Sometimes they just sat in silence on the phone, connected by grief neither of them had words for. "She's doing okay," he said once, referencing Jordan. "I follow her art page. She posted a new photo last week." Camille smiled faintly. "She always was remarkable." Noah paused. "You gave that up," he said. "That brilliance, you let it go." "I know." He didn't say it with bitterness, just sadness. Trent had changed too. He stopped defending his past, stopped pretending he'd done the best he could. He apologized, once, not grandly, just quietly in the kitchen one morning over burnt toast. "I failed her," he said. "I failed you." Camille had only nodded, because some wounds weren't meant to be debated, only carried. In early May, Camille opened her email and found a message from an unfamiliar sender. Subject line, "Darlene said to give this a shot." Her breath caught. She opened it. "Hi. It's not forgiveness, not yet. But it's something. I'm doing a follow-up exhibition in Portland this summer. I'd like you to come. Quietly. No drama. There's a piece in it you should see. J." Camille reread the message 5 times. She didn't respond immediately, just closed her laptop, sat on the edge of the couch, then whispered, "Thank you." That evening, she called Noah. "She reached out," she said. "Really?" His voice lifted. "Yes, a show, this summer, in Portland." Noah paused. "Do you want company?" Camille's eyes welled up. "I'd like that very much." Grace didn't respond to the news, but 2 days later, Camille found a handwritten note in the mailbox. It read, "I'm not ready, but I'm not closing the door, Grace." Camille held the letter like it might dissolve, because that was all she needed. A door, still open, even if just a crack. And somewhere across the city, she imagined Jordan in a studio, working, printing, framing, preparing to show the world who she really was. And this time, Camille would be there to witness it. No lies, no walls, no erasure, just presence, and the quiet beginning of something new. The exhibition was just a week away when Camille received the second email. She'd kept the first message printed on her nightstand, a symbol of possibility. But this new one, it was different. It was an invitation. Subject, Sunday. "Hi again. I wanted to let you know the opening night will be crowded. Donors, critics, lots of noise. But Sunday morning, the gallery will be closed to the public for 2 hours. If you'd like to see the collection quietly, just you, I've arranged it. You don't have to come, and I won't be there. But the piece I mentioned will be. I've left a note for you beside it. Nothing big, just truth. Doors open at 8. If you come, come alone. Jordan." Camille sat with the message open for a long time. She read each line slowly, as if afraid the offer might vanish. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a meeting. But it was choice. Her daughter, the daughter she once abandoned, was allowing her to step closer. Under conditions, under caution, but still, closer. She replied with only 4 words. "Thank you. I will." That Sunday, she woke early. too early. She dressed in soft gray. No jewelry, no makeup, no mask. Just Camille. The woman who'd made terrible choices. And the woman finally ready to own them. She arrived at the gallery at 7:55 a.m. The doors were locked. At 8 o'clock sharp, a quiet security guard opened them, checked her name, and let her inside. No music, no guests. Just silence and white walls. And the story of a girl told in still frames. Near the back, in a softly lit alcove, was a photograph unlike the rest. It wasn't political, wasn't tragic. It was simple. A hospital wristband, a name written in careful script. Jordan Camille Wells. Beside it, a small handwritten card. Camille stepped closer and read, "Not all things lost stay lost. Some things find their way back, even if they arrive late, even if they don't knock first. I see you now. J." Camille pressed a hand to her mouth, tears rising without permission. She didn't speak, didn't move. She just stood there, seen, maybe for the first time. The gallery that morning was sacred in its silence. Camille moved slowly, breathing in each photograph like it was air her lungs had forgotten. The story Jordan told with her work wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It whispered. It lingered. It remembered. Each frame was a wound that had learned how to speak. Children behind courtroom windows. Mothers with empty hands. A boy staring into the barrel of a system that had forgotten his name. And in the center of it all, a girl who had once been left unnamed, now signing every piece with grace. J.W., a name made her own. Camille's footsteps echoed across the floor. She stopped before each image, letting it touch her. But nothing compared to that final alcove. The wristband, the name, Jordan Camille Wells. It wasn't just a photo, it was reclamation. The card beside it had said, "Not all things lost stay lost." Camille touched the edge of the frame gently, like she might feel Jordan's pulse inside the paper. She whispered, "I see you too." She didn't expect what came next. From behind her, a voice, warm, familiar, and completely unexpected. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Camille turned. A woman in her late 50s stood there, brown skin, silver curls, kind eyes filled with something wise. Camille blinked. Yes, very." The woman smiled. "I'm Ava, Jordan's mom." Camille's chest tightened. "Her adoptive mother?" Ava nodded. "But she never needed that word. She just calls me Mom." Camille smiled faintly. "That's how it should be." Ava stepped closer. "She told me you might be here. Said if I ran into you, I should say one thing." Camille tensed. "She said to tell you." Ava's voice softened. "She's glad you came." Camille let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you," she said, voice trembling. "She's not ready to talk. Not face to face," Ava continued. "But she's listening now, watching. That's a start." Camille nodded, eyes burning. "May I ask," she began, then paused. "Was she happy?" Ava's expression turned tender. "She was fierce, even as a baby. She never cried unless it mattered. And yes, she was loved, every single day. But some part of her always wondered, not out loud, not in anger, just a question always hanging in the room." Camille swallowed. "I was the question." "You were," Ava said. "But now, maybe you can be the answer too." Camille wiped her eyes. "I don't expect her to forgive me. I just want her to heal without my shadow over her." "You can't control her healing," Ava said gently. "But you can stop hiding." They stood together in silence. Two mothers, one by blood, one by choice. Both broken, both whole in different ways. Before leaving, Camille passed the gift shop. She saw a set of limited prints. One caught her eye, a quiet image of two hands barely touching across a table. The caption, "Almost." She bought it. She didn't know if she'd hang it, but she wanted to carry something Jordan had created, not just because she was her daughter, but because she was extraordinary. A week later, a small envelope arrived at Camille's door. No return address, just her name. Handwritten. Inside, a photo. It wasn't a gallery piece, not something for the public. It was a personal snapshot. Jordan, seated in a sunlit room, laughing mid-conversation with two others. On the back, in neat script, me, Ava, Darlene. And underneath that, if you want to join us sometime, brunch is every other Sunday. No signature, no explanation. Just a door. Left slightly open. Camille stared at the photo for a long time. She didn't weep. She just breathed. Deep, clean, free. For the first time in 17 years, she didn't feel like a ghost in her own life. That Sunday, she didn't go. But the next one? She bought a fresh bouquet of white tulips. She stood outside the cafe for 5 whole minutes, heart thudding, and then she stepped inside. Because some things lost don't stay lost. Some daughters grow into their own names. Some mothers learn to love too late, but not too little. And sometimes, the truth
Is just enough.
to start again.